Welcome back to America on the Road. Jack Nerad back with you, and we have a terrific guest with you. It's not often that we have a source of truth with us. Well, we hope we have maybe every week, but maybe not somebody who kind of labels themselves as that. And Matt Jones is that for TrueCar. And number one, Matt, so great to talk to you. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You have been in the trenches, right? I mean, you work for TrueCar. TrueCar, of course, TrueCar.com is a place to go to look for cars, get good deals on cars, all of that stuff, and we'll talk about that. But you were in the trenches selling cars, and you know at ground zero what it's like. Tell us how that kind of brings to bear on what you do now for TrueCar.
Well, one of the most interesting things about selling cars is it's that place where you get to see what people say, and then you get to actually marry it to what people do, right? We understand that people have this, sometimes an ideal that they might answer a question in a survey and say that I would like to do this, this, and this. But then you see their behavior in real life when there's real skin in the game, meaning dollars and cents, and you see that sometimes their behavior doesn't necessarily match up with what they say. So as a person who's been able to sell cars for, more than a dozen years in Southern California, which is one of the country's most active sales environments, I think 1 out of every 10 new cars that's sold in the country is sold in Southern California. I've seen the differential between what people think they would like to do and what people actually do. And I've been able to take that logic and integrate it into some of the products that we offer for our consumers and our dealers alike at TrueCar. I think it's actually pretty cool because it's kind of like they have an inside guy, giving them the cheat code of how to make people happy on both sides of the car buying and car selling equation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, tell our listeners who might not be acquainted with TrueCar so much exactly what you do, what you're doing differently now maybe than you've done before too. Both of those things I'd like to know about.
Well, since the beginning of time, people have had concerns about how do I find the exact right car for me, right? And if you are in Southern California, for example, I'll just use that because that's where I am, and you're looking for a Honda, for example, you might have 15, 18, 20 dealerships to go to visit to find that Honda Accord or Honda Pilot that you're looking for. That may not be the best use of your time to go to 15 or 18 dealerships to find that one particular car. So a company like TrueCar, my car, or what we do is we aggregate the data from all the different dealerships and say, hey, instead of you going and taking a road trip to all 15 dealerships, we can tell you who has what and what their pricing is. And we can help you start that process online if you want to get an idea of what the car is going to cost you. And some folks say, okay, that's perfect. That's all that we need. Other folks say, hey, I need to know a little bit more than what it costs me. What's it going to cost me per month if I decide to make payments? What is my trade-in going to be worth? How is my credit going to affect the overall deal? And so we have tools for those folks as well. So our goal at TrueCar is to just streamline and modernize the car dealership experience. So of course, pricing makes help. Jack, as you probably know, we have some of the best rated reviews so people can look at the car, hear what the experts think, and then go make a decision. And that's what our legacy business has been for the past 18 years or so. Some of the new things, though, we've noted that a lot of people actually want to buy cars online. They want to make their decision and they say, hey, I really like test driving cars. I really like smelling cars in real life, but I'd like to take some of this transaction home. I want to be able to do some of this on my time, with my resources. And so TrueCar is transitioning to allow people to do just that. And it's winning for dealers and it's winning for consumers, giving people the space to buy at their own pace. And I think that's going to be part of what the future of automotive looks like. And it's pretty interesting because, I think that came from EVs. I think that came from Tesla. With the Tesla model, with people being able to buy cars online, I think that really accelerated the opportunity for non-Tesla buyers as well to do some of the stuff that TrueCar is offering, which is allow people to do it at their own pace, their own time.
Well, and I would say Tesla and certainly Amazon in a whole different marketplace, right? But kind of aggregating that information and making that available to people, and people are used to shopping that way now. It makes a lot of sense. One thing a lot of consumers can do is they can get an online experience from a single dealer and maybe go through the whole transaction that way. But what I think TrueCar is doing now is aggregating across dealers so you can look at various dealer offers in one place. And that kind of makes a ton of sense, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, there's some people who buy vehicles the way that I would buy a refrigerator. I'm not particularly married to refrigerators. As long as it fits, has a little ice maker and the water thing up front, it doesn't cost too much, I'm fine, right? That's how some people buy cars. Some people, though, are very particular about what they want. So if you go to dealership A and dealership A can offer you a deal, but they don't have the right car, or vice versa, right? TrueCar can step in and say, hey, you know what? We know dealership, not just A, but B, C, D, and E, and maybe even F, which is 400 miles away, but might be willing to ship the car to you. So the whole thing is just to make the consumer happier. And Jack, to your point, kind of like what, some of the things that Amazon has done in years past. This is how a segment of the population shops. And it's important that, people like us make it easier, especially when we talk about the scope of automotive, Jack. And I think that's what gets missed sometimes. With that CDK outage a couple weeks ago, I read a report that said 2.5% to 3% of the United States' GDP.
Yeah, the whole economy.
Yeah, right. That suggests that the car business is like 5%, 5 or 6% of the country's gross domestic product. This is a huge industry. So we're really happy to play a part in making it easier for everybody.
Right. TrueCar has always been known for pricing information, providing pricing information, some kind of transparency, at least, into what people should be paying, not just what is being charged out there.
Yeah.
Tell us where TrueCar is on that now. I think there's probably more transparency in the industry than there was 10 years ago, just in general. But give us your thoughts on all of that.
We still help people understand what's a fair and a good baseline pricing for a car and what other folks are paying. But we're realizing now, and we have realized actually some years ago, is that pricing is just not enough, right? When we consider that a price is a fixed amount, but people generally don't go to a dealership and just write a check for that fixed amount. They need to know what their payments are going to be, because 85% of people use financing in some form or another. So we've integrated payments, and it's not just generalized payments, right? Jack, you and I can have very different credit situations. So with the same down payment on the same car, our payments could be different. We give people that information. About half the people who buy cars these days have trade-ins. They need information on that and how that trade-in is going to affect it. So what I'm saying is, like, price is a foundational piece, but it's not necessarily enough to help a dealer sell a car or to help a consumer acquire a car in a way that they feel comfortable and really behind their purchase with little ambiguity or unsureness. So we've moved just past that. Also, Jack, I don't know how long you've been in the business, but I got in the business about 25 years ago. And 25 years ago, you had brands that were good with great reputations, and then you had brands that didn't have such great reputations. Now, a lot of the stuff is good. It was actually easier for some car shoppers to make a decision when they could say, well, I'm going to buy this brand because I know it has a reputation for longevity, so I don't even need to consider these others. Everything's good now. So how do you decide? That's why we brought in reviews with expert reviewers to say, hey, this is good for this is good for this. So there's a whole lot to this car buying process, and there should be. Cars ain't cheap. We need to put some time and effort into helping people getting them in a way where they can feel good about themselves and their purchase, because the smart move is to buy a car and keep it for a long time. We want to help people feel empowered to do that.
Well, and people don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the car purchase decision either, and especially they don't want to spend time in dealerships. They'd love to do a lot of the, I guess, busy work, you could say, at home, in the privacy of their own home, in their pajamas, eating a sandwich or something like that, I think. Exactly. And you facilitate that too, don't you?
Yes. We recently launched a product here in California, and we'll be going nationwide a little bit later, where a person could purchase their whole car in their pajamas, eating a sandwich. And if they want to step foot in a dealership, they could. But if they did not want to, and they knew exactly what they wanted, we can go from A to B and have that car delivered to that person's home. Now, what's interesting about that is there are some other players in the space that allow that, but that's generally for used cars. Ours is for used cars and new cars. So people,
and across brands. Across brands.
Right? It's across, yeah. That's really important. So our positioning is the idea is great, but that exists in the market right now, but it's limiting. What we've implemented and we're continuing to roll out, it's not unlimited. Everything has limits, but this is so much more broad. And that's interesting it's an interesting point, Jack, because we see that shoppers will start looking for one car and then they'll switch to another car, and they may switch from new to used. Imagine having to go to 4 different channels in order to do that. In our space, a person can do that, and they never have to put their sandwich down. We could do it all from home, from financing, trade in the car, the whole thing that people have been asking for. Now we recognize it's not for everybody, but there's a big part of the population that says that they want this, and actions against it. Like I said earlier, I can see what people say that they want to do and then what they do. This is one of those cases where people say they want to do a particular thing and they take action against it.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I'll tell you, the electric vehicle thing has kind of thrown the industry asunder in a lot of ways. It's certainly been a disruptor, right? And you talked a bit about Tesla and buying online, but there's a lot more to it than that. Brands with great reputations for conventional vehicles might not produce really great electric vehicles. What's TrueCar's stance on electric vehicles, and especially the direct sales from vendors or brands like Tesla that aren't going through a traditional dealer?
Well, the direct sales model is interesting. I think the consumer side is less interested in like the technology behind it. It's just that this is a particular thing that I want to do. I want to acquire this product, and I don't necessarily want to talk to a person. I'm not sure that a consumer cares if they're buying directly from the car maker, if they're buying it directly from the port that the vehicle came off of, or if they're buying it directly from the dealer. What the consumer seems to like is something that's invisible. They don't have to, like, it's easy, right? And so I really want to applaud Tesla for bringing that to the market, because I think that they have created an environment that people will think is relatively easy. And actually, if we think of EVs as a whole, I think last year there was about 1,050,000 EVs sold in the US, which is a pretty big number, right? But comparatively, there was close to 60 million vehicles sold in the US, right? So a million's a whole lot, but there's 59 million other vehicles that were not EVs. I think the importance of EVs in this stage of the game is it's not just a propulsion system, but it's bringing in a new shopping behavior. It's bringing in new options for EV and non-EV buyers alike. And I think it's really an important time. Our stance at TrueCar is that we do think that EVs are going to be a major player going forward. Of course, there's some hiccups. Of course, demand has come down a little bit. We've seen the direct demand of hybrids increase, and all of that is just growing pains. But I think it's a safe bet to say that EVs will be a part of our fixture, or will be a fixture in our landscape, and we're here to support it, whether new or used, with government subsidies, without government subsidies, with in-home charging, with Starbucks charging, whatever it is. EVs are coming, and we're really happy to be a part in helping people get them.
Let's talk about used cars quickly, and we don't have a lot of time, so let's dive into it. But I think a lot of people are finding used cars a great alternative these days, or maybe being forced to find that used cars are an alternative to a new vehicle. Walk us through TrueCar's stance on all that.
Well, we understand that about half of the people who come to TrueCar are buying used cars now. It hasn't always been that way, and some of that is economic pressure, but some of it is also like, I just want what I want. And in some cases, we saw with during COVID, the new car that a person might desire may not be exactly available, but a very similar used car might be there. But as economic pressures continue to mount, and as used cars become more and more plentiful over the next couple of years, we think that's the place where people are going to be spending a lot more time. And Jack, this is something that also doesn't get talked about. We spend so much time talking about the new car market, and I'm just going to use generalities here. In a regular year, there's about 15 million new cars sold between consumers and fleets, about 15 million. But there's also about 15 million CPO, or certified pre-owned. There's also about 15 million that are sold at independent dealerships, and there's about 15 million that are sold private party. So while new car gets all the emphasis, it's only about a quarter of the transactions that actually happen in the North America car market. So I think it's appropriate for people to be looking at used cars. That's what other Americans are doing, looking for options to think like, how can I get the best used car for my money? But probably most importantly, where can I find it, right? Because, if you're in Southern California, like we are, our perfect used car could be sitting somewhere in Boulder, Colorado. And it's going to take some people to really start thinking about how can we get those cars to the right people at the right time, knowing that that's a huge opportunity for growth this year and then in the coming years.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a lot is going on at TrueCar. Matt Jones, thanks so much for sharing that. You're the source of truth at TrueCar. I love that. And I hope we can talk again because I enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, this is Jack. This has been my pleasure. Whenever you need me, just give me a ring and I will be there.
Sounds terrific. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back right here on America on the Road.